Okay, so if we're looking at fraction operations and adding and subtracting fractions, it says look at our integer rules first. I see two signs. I don't know having those two signs together, so a negative and a negative is a positive. It's a double negative there. So 2 1/4 plus 1/3. And then it says to change mixed numbers or whole numbers to improper fractions. So it's got a mixed number right here. So 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. Sometimes you call that cupcake. Some of you have the name for it, Texas. And then plus 1/3. Okay. Find common denominators. Okay, so I know that if I multiply 4 times 3 and 3 times 4, I get 12. So my common denominator there is going to be 12. If you ever can't find a common denominator, if you just multiply the two denominators together, you will get a common denominator. It just might be a kind of larger one instead of a smaller one. And you'll have to do some more simplifying. So 3 times 9 gives me 27. And 3 times 4 gives me 12. Plus 1 times 4 is 4. Plus 3 times 4 is 12. Excuse me. And then 27 plus 4 is 31 over 12. And it says to simplify if possible. Okay, so there's nothing that will go into 31. That also is going to go into 12. However, we can write that as a mixed number. So, and then check signs, and it's going to be positive. So 31 over 12, or we can do 4. And then 12 will go into 31 2 times. 2 times 12 is 24. Subtract 31 minus 24 is 7. And I'm left with 7 over 12. 7 is a prime number, so it can't be simplified anymore. So 2 and 7 twelfths. Okay, so those are your options. Okay, let's look at when we multiply. So it says to change mixed to whole to improper. So 4 times 5 is 20, and plus 1 is 21 over your denominator. 10 over 5, 21 over 5 times that's a times sign, negative 2/3. Okay, and then it says multiply the numerators. So 21 times 2 is 42. And 5 times, and that says multiply denominators. And 5 times 3 is 15. Simplify if possible. Okay, so we can simplify in one of two ways. We can change this into a whole number, mixed number, since it is an improper fraction. We can also simplify it down some. So what number will go into both 42 and 15? And so I know it's not 2 because 15 is not an even number. The trick with 3 is if we add 4 plus to the digits, that gives us 6, and because 3 will go into 6, it also means that 3 is going to go into 42. And so that's just one of our little tricks that we have. So 3 will go into 42 14 times, and 3 will go into 15 5 times. Okay, and then integer rules is it's a positive times a negative, so my answer is going to be a negative 14 bits. Okay. Or, like I said, we could change that. 5 will go into 14 2 times. we're going to 14. 2 times 5 is 10. So there's 4 left over out of 5. So that's our other option. Okay, and then our final one is if we're dividing. So we're just going to change. We have a whole number this time. We're just going to put it over 1 to change it to a fraction. Okay. Keep change flip. So this is going to be keep it as a negative 2 over 1. Change it to a multiplication sign and flip it to 8/3. Okay. So 2 times 8 is 16. And 1 times 3 is 3. And it does not say anything about our integer rules in this one, but we should know that we make sure we look at our integer rules. Okay, so a negative times a positive is a negative. We want to be using a little triangle. Plus, minus, minus. A negative, cover one up, times a positive, cover the other one up, is a negative. That's the sign that we have left. Okay, and then if we change that, 3 would go into 16 5 times, so it's a negative 5, and 3 times 5 is 15, so there's 1 left over, so negative 5 1/3. So those are your 2 options. Hopefully you have a little bit more room than I did, but I couldn't go out of the screen while recording. Okay, so let's continue on. Properties. In properties, the identity property means that it's staying the same. So like 6 plus 0 is still 6. 8 times 1 is still 8. The commutative property means that the order is changing. So 3 plus 5 is the same thing as saying 5 plus 3. Or 2 times 4 is the same thing as saying 4 times 2. That works when you're adding and multiplying. It won't work when you are subtracting or dividing. And then the associative property is that they are grouped together. How are they grouped? So 2 plus 3 is grouped together, plus 4 is the same thing as if we grouped the 3 and the 4 together. And then 3 times 4 times 5, the 3 times the 4, if we multiply that first, or if we multiply the 4 times the 5 first, we'll still end up getting the same thing. And that only works, again, if it's all addition or if it's all multiplication. Okay. And then the last property is the distributive property, which means to give or to multiply whatever's on the outside by whatever's on the inside. You have to give it to everything. So let's do a couple examples. 4 times 2. So this is what this is saying. It's saying you're doing 4 times the 2x. Whoops. Sorry. 4 times the 2x. That's how that happened. And then it's saying that you're doing 4 times the negative 6. So we know that's going to be a negative. We can do minus 4 and then times 6. So we know it's going to end up being negative. So 4 times 2 is 8x. And then negative 4 times a positive 6, or vice versa, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be a negative answer. Oh, whoops, that max. And so it is 24. Okay, so the top part was just showing what you're doing, that you're multiplying that. Okay, so then we have negative 5 times a positive 6, which is a negative 30. And then a negative 5 times a positive 4 is a negative 20. Okay. Okay, parts of an equation. So we're just going to label our parts. So the coefficient is the number that is in front of the variable. Then our variable is the x. Our constant is the number without a variable. And we have an equal sign right here. And then we have another constant. Our constant is that 19. Okay? And then we have three terms. 2x is a term. Positive 7 is a term. And then positive 19 is a term. Like terms is when they have the same variable and the same exponent, and then they can be combined. So 4m, if I had 4 mangoes, and then I have another 3 mangoes, whoops, that's not an m. Can't do that. Can't combine those two. They're not the same. That'd be like if I have nectarines. I didn't want to combine the mangoes and the nectarines. Okay, so 4m, and then I give 10 of my mangoes away, which I don't even have a whole 10 mangoes. So now I owe somebody some mangoes. And in fact, so 10 minus 4 is 6. So I owe somebody 6 mangoes. So that's how I'm showing that. It's negative 6. Yeah. Negative 6 down. There we go. Okay, and then I have 2 nectarines, and then I have 3 nectarines. So together I have 5 nectarines. So I have 5 nectarines, 5 men. And then the minus 8 is all lonely and has nobody to combine with, so I just have a minus 8. Okay. One-step equations and inequality. So inverse operations to isolate the variable. So we're just showing each one. So like on the first one, you have m plus 8. So this was an adding one. So inverse operation means you're doing a minus 8. And if you do it to one side of the equal sign, you have to do it to the other side of the equal sign and keep it equal on both sides of the equal sign. So m is equal to, I have negative 8 and negative 4, so I'm actually adding, they have the same sign, so that gives me a negative 12. Okay, subtracting, so this one's a subtracting one, so the inverse operation is to add, so I'm adding that 3.5 to both sides. Okay. And so that leaves me with n is equal to 12, 13, 14, 15.5. Remember, line up your decimals. Okay, if I have multiplying, I do the opposite. The inverse of multiplication is division, so I'm dividing both sides by 8. So c is equal to a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 32 divided by 8 gives me 4. And then finally, if I have dividing, the inverse of dividing is multiplying. So I'm going to multiply both sides by a negative 5 times a negative 5. Do it to one side, I have to do it to the other side. So my 5s will cancel each other out, leaving me with the x is equal to a positive 30 divided times a negative 5 is a negative 150. For the inequalities, go on to the next video.